All right, welcome everybody. It's 5 o'clock. We'll start our work session. Work sessions are an opportunity for board members to discuss issues informally with staff and invited guests. The board encourages members of the public to attend work sessions and listen to the discussion, but there's generally no opportunity for public comment. Members of the public wishing to address the board are welcome to do so during the board's regularly scheduled meetings. We have, first item is to discuss the formal agenda for this evening. Has everybody had an opportunity to review the agenda? Any questions, comments?
No.
Okay. We have two items on the work session agenda. We have the first is the joint work session with the Fair Board, where we'll be discussing the MOU. And the second item is the fee waiver request, Arch Cape Rural Fire Protection District Goal Number 11 Exception Application. So we'll go ahead and get started with the joint meeting with the Fair Board. Welcome to the Fair Board. Thank you for being here this evening, Chair Audio. I understand that you had kind of reached out to the county and wanted to have this discussion about the Memorandum of Understanding, maybe a review, and then also opportunity to kind of get into the particulars. But I think this evening we just want to talk about what the process is. I think we have something that's outlined here, a draft process to consider any amendments that we might want to make to the FAIR MOU. But first, maybe I'll just turn it over to you and give us an overview.
Commissioners, for having us. Mike Audio, I'm the chair. The Fair Board, we've got Fair Board members Callie Linder and Jack Ficken present. We've got Matt Bellingham online, and I believe Brittany Israel is online or close to it. She's at the State Fair with the horse group. So anyway, thank you for having us. This discussion regarding the MOU, I was appointed to the Fair Board in 2010. The current MOU was just signed that year. And ever since, there's been talk of amending it or bringing it more up to date with what some of the other counties do. And when Heather Reynolds was still the county counsel, we had pretty extensive discussion over ways that we could update the relationship with the county and the Memorandum of Understanding. We gathered, I think, 6 or 7 other county MOUs that we have that we looked at, but we never got to the point of actually doing something about it. And I think as, you know, the fair has grown and the events have grown and personnel has come and gone, I think it's now a good time to revisit the Memorandum of Understanding. 12 years, I think is.
Yeah, 12 years, I think is
a matter of time to reach any agreement, but
sure.
I think there are certainly things that we could fix in the Memorandum of Understanding.
Sure.
Improve, so that's why we're here.
Okay. So we kind of had an outline of how we would go about that, just to review, and then how any amendments might be presented. Has everybody had an opportunity to kind of review what's in front of them? And I could kind of read through it. So this is offered as a potential starting point for further discussion between the Fair Board and Board of Commissioners. And so this would be kind of the proposed process by mutual agreement between both our boards, Fair Board and the Board of Commissioners. Both parties commit to a process to consider modifications to the MOU. So we'll establish a work group to include 2 members of the Fair Board and Board of Commissioners, respectively. So 2 members of each body, and then the committee will be supported by your board staff. And then I guess the next step would be the committee will discuss various alternatives for revision to the MOU and garner input feedback from both boards. And then based on consensus, the committee will develop a draft modified MOU for formal review and consideration of the governing boards. And if a revised MOU is agreeable, the county and Fair Board will cooperatively enter into a transition period, whereas the following will occur prior to the effective date: review of fair policies, procedures, and interim calendar of events, develop staffing plan and initiate hiring processes, and onboarding and training staff. And then also during the transition period, the Fair Board will continue to manage per the current MOU. And then after that, we've got kind of a proposed timeline. So this is the first item on that is the joint work session, and then in September, work group meetings to identify the potential modifications to the MOU, if any. And then October 5th, bring it back to the Board of Commissioners in a work session. We would have then a consideration of adoption on October 26th. And the Fair Board would consider adoption at the November meeting. And then that transition period would continue until December 4th, according to this. And then the revised MOU would be executed on December 5th. So having this as something to react to, does anybody have any comments, questions? Courtney? Commissioner Banks? Sorry.
I was just curious if county manager could outline what the current MOU is, or I don't want to put you on the spot, but. I don't want to So would you be able to just?
Well, I mean, it's not a long document. I think the history is, there's a specific statutory provision for fair boards, county fair boards, that is independent of county commissions, and it's a separate entity. And at some point, the legislature, recognizing that there's liability issues and there's just interlap issues between counties and fair boards, passed a statute that said the county and the fair board can enter into an agreement, intergovernmental agreement, memorandum of understanding that allocates responsibilities between both boards. I think by statute it says the fair board has, the responsibility to put on the fair and to manage the fairgrounds premises. County owns the premises. So the memorandum of understanding says that the fair board is in charge of the event. Currently says it is in charge of employing a fair manager and fair staff, and that is responsible for its own budget, subject to county budgetary policies. But we've got a separate budget that becomes part of the fair budget, but we don't receive any general funds. We receive state fair funds, timber funds, and then we've got a bond levy that we've passed, I think, 4 times now. Yeah. So that's kind of what it spells out now, that we're responsible for running the fair and the fairgrounds and having these employees and having our own budget, basically. A little independent fiefdom. It has certain things that we can't do. We can't sell property. We can't cut timber. Some other provisions that can't make changes to the land without consent of your Board of Commissioners. But other than that, there's pretty broad authority for the Fair Board now to oversee the fairgrounds.
Okay. I was just curious because I hadn't seen it, or,
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of knew the premise,
Right.
but.
Yeah, I would have appreciated a copy of it, actually. That would have been kind of cool.
Yeah, we can get it.
Yeah, I actually, Commissioner Webb, I think I sent a copy as one of our Friday updates, but I'll send it out.
Well, that would be my
It
bad,
was out
sorry.
there. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm
I'll send
sorry.
it.
No, that's my
Yeah.
mistake.
That's all right.
That's my mistake too.
I will send it out, and we'll make sure that the existing MOU
Can it come with a flare?
with the flare. Sure.
Please read this.
And, since I've been on the Fair Board, we've had a few different fair managers. Originally, there was no personnel policies in place for the Fair Board, very informal. And we've been trying to bring that up to, standard. And then the past few years, we've sort of adopted the county personnel policy, but we really haven't tweaked it so it fits what we do at the Fair Board, having just one employee, or one employee and staff. So I think that's the genesis of this discussion, is we've now had some turnover in our personnel, and it's becoming a little bit unwieldy for us to manage these personnel just as a volunteer group. It may make more sense to have them just county employees rather than a Fair Board employee. I mean, technically now there are employees, but practically the county pays them out of our budget. It's out of our money, but we go through the county payroll.
Yeah.
And use all the county services to do it. almost de facto county employees, but they're not. They're Fair Board.
So are they FERS eligible?
Yes, I think they're eligible for benefits by agreement with the county, you know, but it's a little awkward, this whole situation of the employees.
Oh, absolutely, Commissioner Webb.
Oh,
Oh, go ahead.
you mentioned a bond. Is it an operating levy rather than a capital bond?
Yes, it's an operating levy. I think it was first, I think this is our fifth, I think. Usually is it 6 year, Monica? Is that 5 years?
Okay.
So I think the first one was when we moved to present facility in Olney, it was in the 90s.
Wow. Okay, so it is and you also do get timber money.
We get timber money, we get about $50,000 used state fair funds, dedicated funds.
Right.
And then, you know, we've got our facility rental fees for events like the
Right.
Crab Fest and Scandinavian.
I think Commissioner Toyoka, you had a question?
Did, first and foremost, thank you. I appreciate, all the, it's a volunteer effort that takes a huge lift for you guys. So I really appreciate everything you do. Going to the fair, the actual fair itself, the recipients, the kids, they are the genuine receivers of all of that effort and work, and you can see the appreciation in their eyes, and just, it's worth it, and I just want to say thank you, and your efforts are just immense. Really, from the heart. Question on the MLU, from your standpoint, you read the current, and it has a very wide swath. I mean, there's a large area of responsibility. So in your opinions, narrowing that down to events or fair or, something would be more in line of what your volunteer effort would be for. And then the rest of the administrative and, logistics and overhead under the purview of the county manager, wherever that goes. But to allow your volunteer effort to more focus on event, was that correct?
Kelly or Jack, do you want to respond?
I'll respond. Honestly, have a professional job, I'm working day to day, and honestly, I'm not an HR specialist. I want to be an HR, way out of my land, and so me personally, I'm looking for one thing.
So I agree with Jack. I think that's, our immediate, what we'd like to address with the memorandum of understanding, and I think that's part of what Dawn is, outlined here if we transition the staff. But as far as the other components, I don't think we want to go so far as there's no need for a fair board.
Oh, no,
Right.
there is a
So-
need for the fair board.
Right.
I'm not,
So,
No.
so I think that,
but I think my
we
question
don't-
would be, would you, the area of responsibility of the fair board, tailor it to
Right.
your end goal instead of
Right.
operating the entire fairground year-round, would be more towards events? Would that be more in line with what you're
and
doing?
I think that's where the work
Yeah.
of this group is gonna be, is to figure out just what's appropriate for a fair, volunteer fair board to still do, to plan the fair, to plan the events. I think that, I had looked at the other day some of these other counties. I think we've got good working material. See what Washington County's doing and some of these other counties.
Chair Puello, sorry, it's okay, I think that having been involved in Washington County, is that there's an infinite number of options. I think that's what the process is to amend it in a way that really works for the fair board, and that the county can also support. But it's, fair boards have a long statutory history in the county, and they're very valuable, and they do really yeoman's work. And so I think that really what the process is to figure out what variation of those infinite options fits Spotswood County uniquely. And I think
that's what the conversation would be for between,
Yeah.
the work group, is to figure out what that looks like, because there's definitely strength in every model and in every community, and you just have to figure out how to leverage those in the best way. And I think we can do that in a way that allows the Fair Board to serve and focus on the things that are the reason why you all serve. So, because there is a complexity to all the other issues that, yeah.
And I think part of it is, I think as the fair has grown and the events have grown and the things that we host have grown, it has become more complex, that we're seeing that with, requires some more staffing.
I think Commissioner Bangs, you had a question?
I just, you know, I think over the last 3 years, there's been a lot of change occurring in our community, occurring in our school districts, but also occurring with you guys at the fairgrounds. You've pivoted so many times through COVID, in the variety of ways that you had to serve the kids and serve 4-H and serve the event center itself. And then you were served with a huge change that you had to pivot and try to replace the carnival. And I feel like more changes are going to be needed to come down the pipe here in the future. I'm sure as the years move on, insurance changes are going to occur, overhead costs are going to occur, all of these things that I see myself sitting here as a commissioner. I'm a volunteer. I mean, for our county, we're volunteer commissioners, and I couldn't do any of this without a solid staff. And what I see you guys trying to do right now is being your own staff while also having full-time jobs and also having all of these other things that you have to do well. And I guess I'm just offering hopefully a way to simplify so that fair can be everything that you dream of and hope and want, while letting, you know, professional staff take over the ins and outs of how to get it done. And, you know, I think that...
Or some variation.
Or some variation. I send a lot of pipe dreams over to the county manager, and he gives me a variation of what's able to be accomplished. And so I just see a lot of change coming forward in fair, just in general. And it's just the time of our lives that we're in right now. And it would be nice, I think, for you guys to have additional support. Just my thoughts.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Bangs. And I think at the onset, Chair Audio was correct in saying, well, this has been 12 years. It's probably time to review this regardless. So we're just kind of talking about the process this evening, about how we would go about doing that, reviewing the MOU, deciding if there are need to be made. And one of the things it's asking for in this draft is 2 members of the Fair Board and the Board of Commissioners that would kind of meet as a work group to work on these issues. You guys, does the Fair Board know who those 2 individuals?
We haven't had a discussion.
Had a discussion about
We
that?
haven't had a meeting
Yeah.
since.
Does that sound, though, like a good way to go forward there with the?
I think it's a great,
Yeah.
outline that
Yeah.
you guys have put together.
I know we haven't asked either, but
Can I ask a question about that?
Yeah, Commissioner Webb.
I'm assuming that the county staff will be a part of that group, because
We
they
would
are the
just
folks
be
who know what's
supporting-
possible.
We would support the process in whatever way the Fair Board and the board members need.
Good, great. Can I say one
Yeah.
thing? We've had great luck recently with, fast track, collaborations. I don't know if you're familiar with the fact that we had a fabulous, childcare team that we put together on a timeline very similar actually to this. And one of the things I like best about this is the timeline, because I think it says we're all committed to this, we're gonna spend the time, we're gonna get this done. And I just hope that the results will be as magnificent as they were for our childcare thing. I think it's a great great timing in terms of the time of the year, et cetera. So I'm very, very, very much in support of this whole process.
Yeah, I agree, Commissioner Webb. Board Member Linder, did you have anything you wanted to add?
I do, because of the timeline from August to December, our interim either. So what do we do from now?
Good question.
I think we've discussed, the possibility of hiring, another interim or what we would call casual, office administrative assistant and a fair manager or something until we get this process through, so we don't need to keep doing it over and over again here with them.
So, yeah, another one, through the transition period, there would be this, okay.
Can I,
Yeah, Commissioner Banks?
do you have any on-site staff for setup and breakdown of your current events?
We
that you
do.
have on,
We've got a maintenance technician that
okay. Okay.
is doing great. That's all we have. I mean, except for interim.
Well, yeah, no, that's a big job.
Yeah.
You've got a number of huge events.
Anybody online that has any comment at this time? Members of the Fair Board? Yeah, Board Member Mellingham?
Yeah, this is Matt Bellingham. Can everybody hear me okay?
Not really.
Can everybody hear me okay?
It's a little soft, we can hear you. Go ahead and,
Oops.
Yep.
Somebody else.
looks like we've got two lines open there, so that's the county number, isn't it? 325-1000?
Correct.
Okay. If you're, that's who?
It looks like Kelly Stiles.
Yeah, if you're not speaking right now, if you could mute. Do we have anybody else, board member, that's joined us? 7404.
That,
Hey,
hi,
Brittany.
this is Brittany Broadway Israel, and I am a Fair Board member, and I am on.
Okay, we can hear you. Do you have any thing you'd like to add at this time?
No, Callie answered or asked the question regarding staff, what we would do in the terms that we went this route, so.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Brittany.
How is that?
Okay, do we have, and Matt, you want to try it again? No, maybe not. So we've had an opportunity to just kind of look at this real quick, and I agree with Commissioner Webb. I like the timeline. I think obviously you need help in the interim. And then we would, if we decide to move on this, we'd want to establish this work group with a couple members of the Fair Board and Board of Commissioners kind of work on these issues. So who's willing to kind of be part of that group? Commissioner Bangs? Commissioner Toyoka, Board Member Linder, and anyone else? Share audio?
Yeah, I'd be
Yep.
glad to do
Okay,
I was gonna throw you under the bus, but you know.
We have a team.
that sounds like a good squad there.
I have a quick question. Is
Yeah,
there
Commissioner
any
Banks.
scenario where this timeline goes faster? What if we get into negotiations and everything is like peaches and cream? And
I mean, Commissioner, the timeline's just a draft, so
Yeah.
I think as we start talking, it'll become clearer. So,
I just,
yeah, it was just, it's the best guess.
it's a very good guess. It was a very good job.
Yes,
When we're doing the work sessions with Mike and I and the commission, other Fair Board members allowed, so that we don't have to second.
I mean, the only thing about that is then it becomes,
A public meeting.
yeah.
Yeah. We have to keep it to, not a majority of each board.
And part of the goal was just to have a work group that would go back to the public and back to the Fair Board and to the Board of Commissioners. And so it was just to get something on paper for folks to respond to, yeah.
It'll be,
But there will be meetings like this, but once we can. put
And there will be,
something for response.
but there will be staff at the meeting? Or are they gonna be,
There would be staff
Okay.
at the meeting just to help.
so
support.
scheduling the meetings would go through,
Staff will support.
okay,
County manager.
County
staff
manager.
is happy to schedule the meetings since we don't have a lot of staff right now. Is that we can do that.
okay,
Matt Bellingham just texted me that, what he had wanted to say that he couldn't get through was that he thinks it's important that the Fair Board is still responsible and has, you know, oversight of the fairgrounds, grounds and facilities.
okay. Commissioner Banks?
I was just, and it left my brain, I apologize. Oh, goodness. Yeah, is it okay to encourage, their fellow Fair Board members to create a list of questions that can be addressed in these meetings?
Sure.
And then, I didn't know if that was something that was,
I mean,
Like it'd
I
be
think
just-
that the work group can,
Yeah, I think
they can get input on however it makes the most
Okay.
sense, and, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
again, the conversation, at least as I see it, is really focusing on the MOU, and then what are the, I think it's really the Fair Board to come first and say, what are the ones you would like to see, and then have those as at least the first volley, in the discussions, since it's really there to serve you, serve the fair, so.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments on the process?
Thank you for putting it together so quickly and.
Yeah, well, I echo Commissioner Toyoka's comments about the fair. I know the Quila family enjoyed it immensely. We had 2 great days out there. The kids just loved all of they didn't miss the carnival at all. They loved all of the other things.
Not at all.
So, yeah, it was fantastic. So you guys did a fantastic job.
And the fair isn't just for kids.
Yeah.
and I did.
I do have issue with, Jack Ficken at times when he keeps running up the bid. But then you have to remember, it is for the kids.
Playing the horns. No. I did want, while you guys are here, I've had some really great, feedback from parents regarding all of the free, activities that were provided for the children at fair. A lot of them have very similar, feedback as share, children and my children. And I shared it at a previous board meeting, but that you guys did an amazing job. You were served a very difficult plate right before fair with the lack of, carnival and, that particular situation, and that you pivoted hard and you provided something that was wonderful for these kids. So I'm grateful. You did a good job.
Thank you for your efforts too on the carnival. I know you helped us try and locate a carnival, and I think that's just a reality now, or
It
we're
is.
probably gonna face, is
Yeah.
we probably won't ever have a carnival.
I-5.
Yeah, they're not around anymore.
That's
Yeah.
right.
That was, probably the biggest, in terms of just the fair, the biggest revenue producer
Mhm.
of the Fair Board was the carnival.
Yeah, interesting.
It's not gonna be there anymore, it doesn't look like.
Commissioner Webb, you had something?
Yeah, well, I hope that this group would also take into account, how important the fairgrounds are to us as a rural place. I mean, you all have been working way beyond the annual county fair. And it's an incredible resource. It's the only physical resource we have for non-urban celebrations of our county. And it isn't just ag, and it isn't, just kids, and it's an incredible resource. And so I hope that we can keep something going together that can continue all those other things that happen at the fairgrounds. And look at it as an ongoing, expanding, maybe even resource for the county.
Yeah.
So let's make sure that we do that.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question that we will. Absolutely. Any other comments, questions? Anybody else is joining us virtually? We probably won't be able to hear you, but you know, extending the invitation regardless.
Reading lips.
They also hold the rodeo and the fair together.
Well,
Oh, let's do it.
Yeah.
Commissioner Webb wants.
got all kinds of ideas coming.
One more item too for the work session.
Yes, yeah, we will definitely, we'll move on to the next time. But thank you, Chair Audio, thank you,
You all?
board members.
Thank
Really
you.
appreciate you being here and
Yeah.
anxious to move on to the next step.
Add the tour I have to take tomorrow and fringes on my other.
See you later.
Yeah.
Please, because it's the only way I'm able to actually, you know.
Thanks, Mike.
See you later.
From up there.
Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, so you don't have anything, you
Yeah,
don't have
so
anything for the work session, Julia?
This is for the fee waiver request for Arch Cape Rural Fire Protection District Goal 11 exception application. So this is on page 21 of our agendas.
My page 21 just died, or I'm away from dying.
And as I get there,
Could I have your page 21? Thank you. My page 21 is on 3%.
how come I can't find page 21?
Oh, you can never find it either.
What is going on? There it is. There it is. Okay,
Here to serve.
so we'll go ahead and turn it over to Julia Decker, our planning manager, to go through this.
Thank you very much, Chair Quila. So we have a request from the Cannon Beach Rural Fire Protection District / Cannon Beach Fire Department, and also technically the Arch Cape Sanitary District for a fee waiver of $5,000 to pursue a Goal 11 exception to extend the sewer district to serve what would be a conditional use permit for volunteer firefighter housing at the Arch Cape Fire Hall. Through a strange twist of events, back in 2007, the sanitary district was actually extended to the fire hall without a Goal 11 exception. So staff saw this as an opportunity for cleanup. And the board is represented, let's see, the fire district, I don't know if I see the chief, but I do see Phil Chick present up there. I can answer questions for you, but really this is your decision if you would like to waive the fee.
Okay. Thank you very much.
This is just a work session.
This is the work session, we're not making a decision. So, Commissioner Banks?
So what does the fee traditionally pay for?
The fee traditionally pays for staff time, attorneys, lots of mailings, hearings. They're typically, you're going to go to the planning commission or to the hearings officer, then to your board twice. So there's quite a bit of staff time, and very typically attorney time, maybe county council, maybe 2 county councils, there may be land. Mostly that's what it pays for.
And with this particular situation, since it was 2007, do you foresee the same level of staff time that would be projected for a normal situation, I guess?
I don't know how this will go forward. Staff is not sure exactly how this is going to work. First of all, staff isn't really sure how we got to having a sanitary district connection up in the F80 zone, without anybody noticing. It went to a hearings officer at the time, and it just sailed on through. So anyway,
Feels like a pooey situation.
it's just, magic happens, and this is one of those cases. So we have an opportunity. Now, the other thing is, they could do this using a septic connection. I mean, they could put a septic system in there to serve and not pursue the goal exception if they didn't want to go that route. That's expensive too. Everything's expensive. So we have an opportunity to fix something, maybe. Staff is not completely certain on that route yet either. It will take some time. Staff has sent an email out to other Oregon County planning directors to see if anybody else has any experience with this. Gotten a couple of emails back. So far, the one that looked most promising was a built and committed exception. Not sure how that would work because it was built and committed without, benefit of approval for the goal exception, so, see.
Commissioner Webb?
Yeah, I assumed that there would also have to be a goal exception for the housing itself.
That was something that we checked at the time.
Uh-huh.
And so without getting into the details on that very much, because that is not before you, staff checked with Hillary Foote regarding needing goal 3 or 4 exception.
Uh-huh.
And because the fire station itself is a type 2A, process procedure, in that zone, anything that is, accessory to it, and she considered firefighter housing to be accessory to the fire station, to be a type 2A as well. So it would still be a type 2A, it would still go to a hearings officer, but it would not require the goal 3, 4 exception.
Well, am I the only one who's sort of astounded at the idea of putting housing?
It's very limited, ma'am.
So what do you mean, in terms of square footage or number of units or?
We don't have anything, from them at this time.
Uh-huh.
So that application is not in front of you at all at this.
No, I realize that, but that's part of the consideration. Why put a sewer line out there if we have no intention of approving housing?
It would be, probably the best thing to do is to ask Mr. Chick or, Chief Reckman, if he's available, what they have in mind. But they did provide you with a letter that basically just explained it.
Mm-hmm.
I spoke with Chief Reckman a while back. He was looking at doing some sort of a 4-bedroom manufactured.
And it would not be permanent housing? It would be just...
It would be for firefighters who were on call type of thing. I don't have an application for it, so I can't speak to it, ma'am.
Okay, I guess my immediate reaction was that this was premature until we could see, because we don't know what kind of a sewer line would be needed until we know what's gonna be built in terms of the housing.
Well, at this time, all they're asking for is a waiver of the fee to explore.
Hey, thank you.
Well, I guess, so the letter's not very, doesn't tell me why they need don't take this the wrong way, a discount. Doesn't tell me that, their budget is strapped and they can't afford it. It doesn't tell me anything other than $5,000. Give them a $5,000 coupon, and if we did that with all of our special districts, we'd be kind of, giving away a lot of money and staff time for, so I'm just curious if there's more that I'm just not seeing of why we're requesting. I get that they want to explore, which is great. But usually when you do exploratory situations, you're doing it on your own dime. So it's not telling me why. Other than they just don't want to pay the money. So do you have more?
I have, this is what staff has received. Mr. Chick is, available. You could,
So, Bill, do you want to, Bill Chick, District Manager, Arch Cape Sanitary District. Phil, do you want to go ahead and comment?
Sure. Hello, commissioners and county staff. I think Julia did a good job explaining that, and then also in her summary report provided to you. In answer to your question, Commissioner Bangs, I think the reason we were asking for a waiver is because we felt this came down to something valuable by the community. We're talking about emergency response volunteers. We know we've got a couple big challenges in Clatsop County, in Tillamook County, pretty much everywhere, and that's housing. And I think if you talk to Chief Reckman or any other fire chief, getting volunteers and maintaining well-trained volunteers is also another challenge. And when you have those two things together, that's kind of a double whammy, Can't get volunteers don't have housing. So that's why we're pursuing this. And asking for the waiver for that reason, based on the value that this could potentially present to this portion of the county. And also, we've been under the assumption since 2014 that this was in the sanitary district. I don't know how it happened, things happen, but on a couple of the county maps and the things we've gotten from our engineers over the years, it's all, this has all been in the sanitary district. So it was a little bit of a shock. And as Julia said, we're trying to clean some of that up.
I think Commissioner Banks and then Commissioner Webb. Commissioner Banks?
Have you explored a septic system or the cost of a septic system instead of this direction? And what was your conclusion?
I don't know if the fire district has explored that.
Okay, okay.
But I didn't, I didn't think of that. That would be an option since it's not in the sanitary district. There could be a septic system there possibly in the future.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
I think it'd be in everybody's best interest to get on the sewer, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Commissioner Tuoka, did you have any? Oh, sorry. Misread that. Any other questions for Phil Chick?
I guess
Commissioner Webb?
I guess my concern is that I think a goal exception is a major operation in the state of Oregon, and it does encompass a lot of staff time. I guess I just feel that this is premature, Phil. I would like to see a plan for building the housing, and if we're talking about a manufactured house with only 4 bedrooms, we're not really providing permanent housing for anybody. If it's just for people who are on call, that's, to me, I think this whole effort is premature until we see, to me, the greater extent of what this goal exception would entail. I, for one, am always inclined to help special districts in any way that we can. But I just think this whole effort is very premature, and I think that, as I say, a goal exception is going to cost our staff a great deal of time. And I just would like to, I'd like to see this come forward as a total package that would give us the idea of what it is that we're asking the state to approve for us. So I would just like to see the whole thing fleshed out a bit more before we acted on it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Commissioner Banks?
So, Mr. Chick, he's the sanitary district, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Arch Sanitary District.
Okay, thank you. I was just sure that they were amiable to the plan. Part of the plan, but they are, okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions, comments? I mean, I can understand the dilemma. They thought they were out of the district, or thought they were in the district, and they learned that they're out of the district, and they want to make sure that if they go forward on something like that, that they're going to be granted that exception.
I mean, I'm not against it, but then again, the staffing time and the hours, and, I mean, we've dedicated a lot of staffing hours to the region over the last 2 years. And so, I mean, I'm not against dedicating more, but it's just a struggle to, I mean, that's just where I'm at.
Would it be something that we'd want to see more?
I would like to see more.
From the fire chief about what they plan to do?
Yeah, I mean, because F80, it's common to have caretaker homes or caretaker situations in the forest zone area. Fire lookouts, these types of things are fairly common across the state. I mean, my mother-in-law was in a fire lookout for most of her childhood. So but it's just, they're usually septic they're usually attached to a septic or type situation and not to a sewer district. But then there's this, I will say Arch Cape's very lucky to have a sewer district, Napa does not. They're very lucky for that, but I would like a little bit more, I guess.
That kind of our direction.
I mean,
Absolutely.
the answer's not no, but it's not yes, is that?
Yeah, yeah, tell us more.
Yeah.
I mean, in some respects, I think it's kind of an exciting idea. I mean, I think it's very cool.
I think it'll be great for your community.
Yeah, but I just want to see more. And I mean, I've been through goal exceptions and they're, I think I put one of my kids through college with one. So, you know, it's a real heavy lift.
Well, I think, Chair Coyle, the members of the board, we can follow up with Chief Breckman and
Mhm.
maybe get some more information and
Mhm.
then your board can noodle on that and see what that direction might be, so.
Okay.
Okay.
Sound good. Thank you, Julia. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We don't have any other items on the work session agenda, so we can take a 15-minute break and then we'll reconvene at 6 o'clock. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Want to welcome everybody here this evening. First item is the roll call.
Commissioner Cherquila,
Here.
Commissioner Thompson is excused. Commissioner Toyoka,
Here.
Commissioner Webb,
Here.
Commissioner Banks is excused.
Thank you, Clerk of the Board. We had an opportunity to review the agenda at our work session. Any questions, comments, or I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the agenda as presented.
We moved and seconded to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor signify with an aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. First item on our agenda is a proclamation for World Suicide Prevention Day. And it's my pleasure to introduce Norma Hernandez, who's our WIC coordinator and also the health promotion specialist team member. And she's going to present on this. Welcome, Norma.
Hello, and thank you for having me. It is an honor to represent our team, the health promotion team, and this very important day. World Suicide Prevention Day first started in 2003, and it was an initiative by the International Association for Suicide Prevention, and it's celebrated every year on September 10th. According to the World Health Organization, WHO, every 40 seconds, someone in the world loses their life by suicide. For every person that dies by suicide, 20 or more individuals may attempt to end their lives. More than 800,000 people die by suicide every year. Suicide is a major preventable cause of premature death, which is influenced by psychosocial, cultural, and environmental risk factors that can be prevented through worldwide responses that address these main risk factors. There is a strong evidence indicating that adequate prevention can reduce suicide rates. And this is not in other parts of the world. This is also in our neighborhood. In the first 6 months of 2022, 6 residents of Clatsop County and 400 Oregonians have lost their lives through suicide. That is a very dark reality. The World Suicide Prevention Day aims to raise awareness that suicide it is preventable, improve education about suicide, spreads information about suicide awareness, and decreases stigmatization regarding suicide. So this is a way that we can really bring conscience to our community, to ourselves, to get a reminder of what is happening. In part of that, also, August 31st next year, we have a day of drug overdose, that we can talk to those families, that we can talk to those survivors, and people who are going through it. So it is a lot of things that affect our lives, that it could really, really take our quality of life and diminish it. Any questions?
Any questions? Thank you, Director Hernandez.
You're welcome.
A resolution in order in front of us. Do we have a motion?
Yes. I move to approve the resolution and order proclaiming September 11th, 2022 to be World Suicide Prevention Day and authorize the chair to sign and then read the proclamation.
Second?
Until September 10th?
September 10th.
It is.
Yeah.
September 10th. Okay. Second? Okay, moved and seconded to approve the resolution and order proclaiming September 10th, 2022 to be World Suicide Prevention Day and authorize the chair to sign, then read the proclamation. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. And I'll go ahead and read the proclamation. In the matter of proclaiming September 10th, 2022 to be World Suicide Prevention Day, whereas globally, 800,000 people die from suicide each year, and whereas the global suicide rate is over twice as high among men than women, and 4 times as high in the United States, and whereas suicide is the leading cause of death among young people aged 10 to 24, and the Trevor Project's 2022 National Survey on LGBTQ youth mental health found that 45% of LGBTQ youth seriously considered attempting suicide in the past year, including more than half of transgender and non-binary youth. Whereas suicide rates are high amongst vulnerable groups who experience discrimination, such as refugees and migrants, indigenous peoples, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, intersex persons, and prisoners. And whereas 92% of transgender adults report having attempted suicide before the age of 25, and whereas suicide is the second most common cause of death among people experiencing homelessness, and those numbers are likely to be much higher than reported. And whereas veterans aged 18 to 34 are at the highest risk of suicide in Oregon and are more vulnerable than the more recently they have been discharged from the service. And whereas in 2020, there were 104 reported youth suicide deaths in Oregon, making suicide the second leading cause of death for people ages 10 to 24 in the state. And whereas, according to the Oregon Health Authority's preliminary data, in 2020, 835 Oregonians died by suicide. And whereas in the first 6 months of 2022, 400 Oregonians, 6 of whom called Clatsop County home, died by suicide, with each death leaving behind a grieving community of family and friends. And whereas many of those people who died never received effective behavioral health services for many reasons, including the stigma of using behavioral health treatment and the stigma associated with losing a loved one to suicide. And whereas suicide is preventable, now, therefore, be it hereby resolved, the Clatsop County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim September 10th, 2022 as World Suicide Prevention Day here in Clatsop County, and I invite all community members to join us in this day of observance by raising awareness, reducing stigma around suicide, and encouraging well-informed action. If you or someone you know is in crisis, whether they are considering suicide or not, please call the toll-free lifeline at 988 to speak with a trained crisis counselor 24/7. Dated this 24th day of August, 2022, Board of Clatsop County Commissioners for Clatsop County. Thank you, Norma.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Next item is the business from the public. Clerk of the board, have any members of the public registered to speak?
Yes, I have one person on the phone.
Okay.
Phone?
We have one person on the phone, and then we have one person here in
Mhm.
person.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we'll go ahead and start. This is an opportunity for anyone to give a 2-minute presentation about any item on the agenda except for public hearings or any topic of county concern that is not on the agenda. So if you're registered to speak, please wait until your name is called, then give your name and address for the record, and you'll have 2 minutes to speak. So M.R. Ang,
Hi.
Box 12, Astoria, Oregon, 97103. We'll go ahead.
Thank you so much. I'm here to speak about homelessness in this county. We have a serious problem of excluded homeless who are not permitted to eat on this block up here on Commercial. That includes DV victims, GLBTQ people, disabled people who need wheelchair access, as well as minorities who've been excluded. I have reported to Disability Rights Oregon the issue with the ADA violations, and as well as a public accommodations questionnaire submitted to the Bureau of Labor Industries, who supervise equality of access. I've also made an Americans with Disability Act complaint to the federal United States Department of Justice. Any one of us could have a car accident that leads us to need a wheelchair tomorrow. So we must truly think about disability access as an imminent thing that pertains to all of us. Additionally, I wrote an email in May surrounding misconduct, innuendo, and the culture of violence surrounding the community, including drugs. I was immediately excluded. I can no longer find out inside facts, but I'm willing to speak to anyone. My email is maryang1@gmail.com if you'd like details of what I know. I was sent a threatening letter this week from an attorney trying to silence me. My voice I try to use for the benefit of all the homeless. There are serious issues with safety concerns, and I really applaud anyone who has the guts to feed the homeless. It's a hard position to take. I think the adversarial atmosphere in the community contributed to the dysfunction. The homeless need a fair chance. I know a woman who is homeless who's been starved out for about 6 weeks now, and it becomes a mental health spiral when you're denied meals, you're denied fair access, your stalker is waiting for you at the center, you faced violence. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Ng. And
then we have, Dr. Claire Hassler-Lewis.
Dr. Lewis?
Good afternoon. By now, it's painfully clear that there are a lot of very upset residents and voters throughout Clatsop County regarding the short-term rental issue. We are even more frustrated in the wake of the legal briefing that you received at your Wednesday, August 17th work session. During that briefing, Land Use Attorney Chris Crean directly and firmly told you, among other pieces of salient advice, that 1, the decision to add STRs as a permitted use in one place, Arch Cape, but not elsewhere in Clatsop County, means that they're not allowed in those other zones, i.e. the 16 residential zones specified in Ordinance 2205, which means those STR licenses that were issued in the other zones were issued in error. Number 2, STRs are not lawfully established. You could just refuse to renew them because once you recognize that you're making an error, you're not obligated to continue making the same error. The Clatsop County Board of Commissioners has spent 3 years and wasted hundreds of thousands of taxpayer dollars, not to mention disregarding your constituents' pleas and creating a maelstrom of antagonism within the county's neighborhoods to avoid acknowledging the mistake made in issuing these unlawfully established STR permits and trying to cover it up by passing Ordinance 2205. Rather than continuing to waste our taxpayer dollars fighting in favor of outside business interests, wouldn't it make sense to resolve the predicament once and for all by enacting the following easy 2-part solution? 1, repeal Ordinance 2205, and 2, adopt the proposal of the County Planning Commission from March 8th, 2022, recommending that A, STR should not be allowed in residential districts except in Arch Cape. B, STR applications should be reviewed at a public hearing. 3, consider imposing a cap on the number of STRs in zones which do allow them. This letter was signed by 59 individuals, registered voters throughout Clatsop County. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hassler-Lewis. Can you give your address for the record, please?
89883 Ocean Drive, Warrenton. Thank you.
Thank you. Clerk of the board, do we have any other additional?
No, we do not.
Okay. We'll go ahead and close the public comment at this time, business from the public. We'll move on to the consent calendar. We've all had an opportunity to review the consent calendar. Any questions, comments on the consent calendar? Do we have a motion?
Yes, I move to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
Moved to approve the consent calendar. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. We'll start with Commissioner Liaison reports. Commissioner Toyoka.
Other than the, there's a lot of time frame for constituent correspondence this week, whether it's in person, phone, or email, over a lot of the agenda items, so I won't elaborate until we come up with those in the meetings, but it's been a great week, actually really hearing or 2 weeks, hearing thoughts and opinions of people in my district. So a lot of really good input, and hope to share that when we get to these different agenda items on the input from the constituents in my district. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Toyoka. Commissioner Webb?
I have nothing. I've been with my grandchildren for the last 2 weeks.
So glad you got to spend that time with your grandchildren.
Me too.
And I don't have anything, County Manager?
Chair Quayle, members of the board, just a reminder that I'll be out Monday through the next Wednesday as I drive to Biloxi, Mississippi in a U-Haul, so wish me luck.
Day, down and back?
No, it's actually a week and a half. So I'll be leaving Monday, and then the following Wednesday is when I'll be back, so. And then, just wanted to have Justin Gibbs, come on up. Justin is just joining us. He's the new director of the Department of Emergency Management. He came to us from most recently Multnomah County, but prior to that, he was over on the coast of North Carolina.
Yes, sir.
And so I thought I'd let Justin give a little bit of background, and do some introduction. So go ahead, Justin.
Thank you, County Manager. First, I'd like to express my gratitude for the opportunity to serve Clatsop County. My family and I are so happy to be here. To provide a little background on my work experience, in 2007, I joined an ultra-rural jurisdiction on the coast of North Carolina. It's actually where I was born and raised, Hyde County, North Carolina. I was the E911 database administrator and deputy emergency manager there. In 2008, I served on the Evans Road fire response, which was a federally declared disaster. It was about a 40,000-acre wildfire that burned across 4 counties in the area. In 2011, I was promoted to Emergency Services Director on July 1 of 2011. In August, around my birthday, I had my first hurricane response. So it was Hurricane Irene, which ultimately was a federally declared disaster as well. And I think over the course of the next 7 years, I had, I think, 5 federally declared disasters during that period of time. Kind of well-versed in that process and the recovery process. Just prior to leaving Hyde County to join Multnomah County in 2019, Ocracoke Island, which was in my jurisdiction, it's a barrier island, was impacted by Hurricane Dorian. That was not, well, it was federally declared for public assistance, which assisted the county government, individual assistance. We did receive individual assistance from the state, but did not get temporary housing. So we got grants from the state, and basically I had to create a local program. We bought travel trailers from GSA, and I had to administer a housing program, provide rental assistance, basically create all that from scratch. So, and then I joined Multnomah County during COVID, became a planning section chief, and they're already running Emergency Operations Center, was there during the wildfire smoke of September 2020, and then afterwards wrote the after action for that activation and worked on their continuity of government plan as well as their earthquake planning. And then in early 2022, I was promoted to their interim planning division chief position and served in that for a period of around 6 months before interviewing with Clatsop County and being provided the opportunity to join the staff here. I'm really excited for this opportunity, and since joining, just being here, the place, the people, the issues really resonate with me from, my home, and I'm just so appreciative to the county managers and the staff for being so welcoming and getting me up to speed. So thank you all so much.
Yeah, well, welcome, Director Gibbs. We're happy to have you. Welcome to the team. Hope you've left all those disasters behind you. But we're glad to have you part of the team. So thanks again for being here. Any other comments from the board?
I want to talk to you later. I have deep roots in North Carolina.
Thank you, Justin.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Chair Quilla.
Are you a Tar Heel?
I actually, went through a master's certificate program, community preparedness and disaster management at Chapel Hill. So.
Okay, we'll move on to our public hearing this evening, ordinance 22-06, exception to Goal 11 and text amendments to the Clatsop County Comprehensive Plan and Clatsop Plains Community Plan to extend the shoreline sanitary district's boundary. This is on page 98 of our agenda. And first item on the script here is, Board, do you have any declarations of ex parte contacts, bias, or conflicts of interest?
No, sir.
Nope. Nope. Okay, members of the audience, do you wish to challenge the presence of any of the board members to hear the land use matter in front of you today? Not seeing any. Council, if you could read the land use statement at this time.
Clatsop County is obligated to follow its comprehensive plan, its land and water development use code, and state statutes when it reviews requests for development. We will consider the applicant's request in the case in light of the standards and criteria which are identified by staff in its report. Participants in this hearing must direct their testimony towards the applicable substantive criteria which staff has identified in each report. If anyone feels other criteria in the plan or code applies to a decision, they must identify the criteria clearly so that the Board of Commissioners and the parties have an opportunity to respond. If a participant fails to raise an issue with sufficient specificity and supported by evidence, the opportunity for an appeal to LUBA on that issue and an action for damages in circuit court will be waived. Overall, I suggest that any person speaking tonight address their remarks to whether the applicant meets the criteria, and if not, state why not. The applicant in each case will make her testimony first. Proponents will follow the applicant. Then opponent and those who wish to speak from a neutral position will have an opportunity. Rebuttal will only be available to the applicant. Once the hearing is complete, the Board of Commissioners has the following options. Number 1, approve with findings. Number 2, deny with findings. Or number 3, continue the hearing to a future date to allow further consideration. If the Board of Commissioners finds that all of the approval criteria have been met and the applicant has proven the application fully complies with the applicable comprehensive plan policies and any provisions of the code and other implementing ordinances, it must approve the application. If even one of the approval criteria has not been met, the Board of Commissioners must deny the application unless in the discretion of the board, a condition of approval can be fashioned to address those criteria.
Thank you, County Council. For the staff report, I'll turn it over to Julia Decker, our planning manager. Julia.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioners. Chair Quilla, I'm Julia Decker, Planning Manager, Community Development. Before you this evening is a request for you to conduct the first hearing of Ordinance 22-06, and this would be an exception to Goal 11 with text amendments to the Clatsop County Comprehensive Plan and the Clatsop Plains Community Plan to extend the Shoreline Sanitary District's boundary to accept a single tax lot that is known as 33777 Cullowby Lake Lane, owned by Alan and Laurel Fevas. The Community Development Department received their application on May 6th of this year. The Sanitary District is represented this evening. The Fevas are here. I believe they have some support with them as well. The County Planning Commission heard this matter on July 12th and made their recommendation that your board approve the request, and the Planning Commission's recommendation, as well as the staff report, is available as attachment A. The Fevas intend to develop the lot with a single-family dwelling, and having the ability to extend the sanitary sewer district will allow them to have better use of their lot, which does meet the minimum requirement for width, but it is still narrow. It's like 60 feet wide, and it is encumbered by wetlands that they would prefer not to disturb. And the wetlands extend from their property south across the property line, and they are lakefront. So a septic system is less than, optimal in that situation. They are immediately adjacent to the, sanitary district. They are within about 275 feet of the, there we go. They're within about 275 feet of the connection point. And so you see there, that is the boundary of the sanitary district right now. That little yellow dot is, and their lot is that one in gold right there. And if I put them up side by side, you can see it's immediately adjacent. That is a county road right in front of it, so there would not be any issue with extending the utility through there. The sanitary district is in support. Staff worked through a lot of Goal 11 stuff. As Commissioner Webb has stated, it's a heavy lift. And there is a great deal of background material regarding the sanitary district, which is older. There is a great deal in here about the shoreline, the whole subdivision itself and how it was created. And there's probably more there than you needed, but it really does help have all that context. We worked through the comprehensive plan goals that apply, including goals 1, goals 2, goal 6, goal 10, goal 11, obviously, where we spent quite a bit of time, and then also the Clatsop Plains. We have some language to include. The Clatsop Plains Community Plan, we have some language to include, which would be found on pages 123 and 124 of your packets. And also then the meat of this is Oregon Administrative Rule 660-011-0060. And staff went through a lot of this before finally settling on sub 8, which is the one that applies here, and this application does meet every single criteria. So I was getting a little concerned up through 7. I kept working through, and finally we found it. Sub 8 did work, and we have findings for you on all of those. Staff would be happy to answer questions rather than just rattle on.
Thank you. Planning Manager, do we have any clarifying questions?
Thank you for the report. Thank you for the report. You know, just wanted to get clarification. I read the whole thing. Just want to make sure I understood it correctly. That the line that's there is servicing that entire development already, and there's only 6 unbuilt lots at this time, and it has more than enough capacity. The sanitation district has approved it already, or in favor of it, or they say it's acceptable.
The sanitation district actually would like to speak this evening. I saw that John Glenn is on the line, and he would be available to speak. But there is actually communication in the packet toward the back. If you didn't see it, I can understand why. But there is communication in the back. The sanitary district is in favor, and there are 6 lots in Cullowhee Lake right now in the shoreline estates that are not built out. There are 4 lots that are outside of it, and you can see those right in that sort of cutout. 3 of those are already built, and they have septic systems. This is the last lot outside, and it would be, if they completely built, then they would have 7 more to add to this entire 150 or 60 lot subdivision.
Right, and it meets all the county's criteria. Everything's good.
Yes, Commissioner.
And wasn't there something in the packet too that said it was better for the, environmentally better for the lake, Cullowhee Lake itself, because being on the sewer system vice, the septic and the leaching and the water temperature, was that correct?
That is correct. I think it's actually even given the status of common knowledge that anytime you don't have a septic system on a lakefront property, especially one that is encumbered with wetlands, the less opportunity that you have for anything to leach, the better for the environment, the better for the health of the lake, the better for the community.
And then in your opinion, in your research, everything here is beneficial and acceptable per standards, correct?
Staff recommends approval as well.
Making sure I read your report right.
Okay. Any other questions before we open the public hearing?
Yes.
answer.
Yes, Commissioner Webb.
I wonder, I'm sorry that as always, Julia, this was a wonderful staff report from you.
Thank you.
Is there any way to go back? This was a hole that I didn't realize existed in the middle of this development. And I guess I had always been under the impression that everything was a part of the sewer district. Is there any way to help these other 4 units or the other 3 hook up?
John Glenn actually mentioned that other people have been, in those lots, had been approached in the past about whether or not they wanted to develop, and they declined, or to hook in, and they declined. Mr. Glenn is probably a better person to speak to that, but I can see in the record going back, when they did the emergency, 2012, to extend the sanitary district to the city of Warrenton, that the topic came up again. And there was concern about those lots, and also lots on the other side of, along Highway 101, for example. And at the time, DLCD staff said, if they're interested, then they need to make their application now. If not, then it will stand or fall on its own. And there is language also written in so that on the other side of the sanitary district, the pipeline route, that excludes it, other lots entirely. And so one thing I think is clear in the staff report, but I failed to mention this evening, these 4 lots, including the Fevers lot, these have the appropriate zoning. These have the appropriate comp plan designation. These are appropriate. These other folks have chosen not to apply. Anything on the other side of that sanitary connection district that goes out onto 101 is not in an appropriate comprehensive plan designated area, is not in appropriate zoning.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Webb. We'll go ahead and open the public hearing at this time. Applicant, I believe, is here, Alan Fevers. Do you have a report?
I'm just here to answer questions, but Julia did an excellent job of presenting all the information.
The question is, am I saying it right? Alan Fevers?
You got it exactly
All
right.
And your address?
I'm from Pendleton, Oregon, 304 Northwest Furnish, Pendleton. But soon enough, and I don't know how long it takes, but we hopefully will join the county here.
Do we have any questions? Okay.
Other than to say.
I also brought somebody with me who lives in the community.
Yeah.
To
Excellent. Yeah, we've got
support.
an opportunity for other people to weigh in as well. So thank you very much. So supporters of the applicant, do you have any testimony? If you could come up to the, if you want to come up to the table and state your name and address for the record.
I'm Mary Moore Seaver, and we happen to live in one of the few spots right there, pretty much next to him, that don't have access to the sewer system. But I think it's awesome that he's having the opportunity to join, so I'm very much in favor.
Could we get your address, please?
Sure, it's 33801 Colby Lake Lane.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other comments from applicant, from supporters of the application? Okay, now I'm going to ask for any neutral or opponents to the application. Do we have anyone here that would like to speak either in opposition or neutral to the application? Okay, not seeing any. We'll go ahead and move on to discussion from the board.
Excellent report. I don't have any questions. Very thorough.
Okay, is there a motion? Did I skip over closing the public hearing?
Yeah.
Was there a motion in order?
Yes, we could.
Here.
I move that we conduct the first reading of ordinance 22-06, open the public hearing and take testimony, and continue the matter to September 14th, 2022.
Seconded.
Okay, moved and seconded to conduct the first reading of ordinance 22-06, open the public hearing and take testimony, and continue the matter to September 14th, 2022. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. If I can talk here. And thank you very much, Julie. I appreciate it.
Thank you very
The staff
much.
report. Council, will you read the ordinance by title only?
Ordinance 22-06, an application by Alan and Laurel Vives to amend the shoreline sanitary district boundary and the text of Goal 11 of the Clatsop County Comprehensive Plan and Clatsop Plains Community Plan, adding a map of the sanitary district boundary.
Thank you very much, County Council. I just realized that I didn't give John Glenn from the sanitary district an opportunity to say anything. And maybe we can bring that back at a later date and see if John has anything that he wants to add. But thank you very much for the testimony. We'll go ahead and move on to the business agenda this evening. City of Seaside quitclaim deed on page 145. Monica Steele, our Assistant County Manager.
Thank you, Commissioners. So before you this evening is a request to issue a quitclaim deed for the county surplus lands to the City of Seaside for the purpose of development of affordable housing and social services. And so if you all recall, back in April of 2022, staff put out an RFEI, and this was specific for local cities, special districts, and local service nonprofits and nonprofit housing developers to submit expressions of interest on 15 parcels of Clatsop County property under the conditions of ORS 271.330, and this closed on May 13th. The City of Seaside submitted a proposal that on 4 lots. 2 of these, though, met the criteria for ORS 271.330, and those are tax lots that total approximately 1.85 acres, and they're in the area that is commonly, it's just north of the area commonly known as the North 40, which the county recently deeded over to the city for the specific purpose of using as parks. And so even though this property, which is currently zoned industrial, it abuts property that is zoned R2. And so that is residential zoning. And then also under Senate Bill 8, there was recently went into effect that industrial lands can be used for the purpose of housing without being rezoned. But this all falls within the City of Seaside, so this is all a matter for them to take up. The quitclaim deed, should your board authorize it, would grant the city and any successors the property under these conditions. And so the purpose of this under ORS 271.330 is to provide either low-income housing, social services, or child care services. And if the property shouldn't be used for any of that, then it would revert back to the county. And so are there any questions? One other thing I will just add in there is that this would be granted to the city at no cost.
Thank you, Assistant County Manager Steele. Any questions, Commissioner Toyoka?
One point, just for clarification for those listening, is there were questions about the lot line and on the current North 40, all the improvements that were made to it by community members for a softball field, and looking at the current lot lines they would lose their right center field for the brand new facility. So, County Manager, you could explain lot line adjustments, anything more, just for those who are participating or more like a.
Sure, I can go ahead, and we did recently meet with the City of Seaside, and so they are aware of that. And once all of this happens, the City of Seaside will take on that lot line adjustment because both of these properties will be under their direction. And so they have already expressed interest in making that adjustment.
Excellent. Thank you. For the benefit of some people listening in, just to make sure that all their hard work won't disappear.
Yes.
And Chair Quill, if I might,
yes.
Councilor Wright is also here from the city, so I'm not sure he has anything to say, but just wanted to at least recognize.
Yeah, welcome, Seaside Councilor Wright. Do you have anything you'd like to add on this? No? Okay.
When you say yes, I'll say thank
you. Okay. Well, welcome. Any other comments? Questions? Do we have a motion?
I move to authorize the chair to sign the quitclaim deed, releasing all of its right, title, and interest in tax lots 6101, 5 Bravo Alpha 06500, and 6101, 5 Bravo Alpha 06100, as described in Exhibit A.
I second.
Moved and seconded to authorize the chair to sign the quitclaim deed, releasing all of its rights, title, and interest in tax lot 61015 BA 06500 and 6101 5BA 06100 as described in Exhibit A. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. And that is the last item on our agenda this evening. Do we have anything for the good of the order? Okay, if not, we'll go ahead and adjourn. Have a good night, everyone.
Night, thank you.
That went a lot smoother.